Gonkra, another champion in one of our weekly tournaments. So we're starting champion versus champion. Silent, are you ready to go?
Oh, I am pumped and set. This is going to be absolutely exciting. And I mean, we couldn't get a better leader matchup either here. And so it's going to be curious to see how both of these are going to play out. I don't know who's going to necessarily win. Both decks are so powerful.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun match. Let's go ahead and join these players. I've given them the green light as we tend to do. So once they get started, let's see what they bring. So as we said, we have Gonkra representing with the Irelia champion, and then PewQ, our infamous Ari player, like we said, is going to be bringing that Viktor player. So Irelia will be on the play. And have you played a little bit of Irelia yourself, Silent?
Yeah, I have, and it's a really interesting deck list, mainly because you're kind of low to the ground on how many units you actually play. In this case, we only have 8 units that are going to be utilized here, but that's because you are a heavy spell slinger, and so that's something you got to watch out a lot for, because yeah, sure, Irelia might be the one unit out on the board, but it is going to be scary because she's going to have defies, buffs, equipment to save her, and it is going to be so difficult to go ahead and try to take care of her and get some points.
Yeah, one of the most problematic equipments, as you mentioned, is going to be the one already on the board here, that Guardian Angel, basically a Zhonya's Hourglass in equipment form. So good start for the Irelia player. Let's see what they follow that up with. They're tapping 2 Chaos Runes, maybe just developing a 2-drop, but I've seen a lot of Irelia lists recently. They're kind of foregoing smaller units. Have you noticed that, Silent, where they only really play the Irelia champion, and I believe is the Stellacorn unit as well?
Yeah, that's going to be really the two big units that you are trying to use. Stellacorn is also one of the bread and butters of this deck because every time that you move the corn in this case, you are able to draw a card. That is not limited to. It doesn't say once per turn, so anytime that you can. And so this deck can have a lot to move around. And then he is potentially running Ezreal as well. So you're going to be able to discard 1 and draw 2, but still, again, not a lot of units here.
And we get to see a stupefied, nice little cheeky play we've seen on the Dreaming Tree quite often, where you just get a double draw, nice and easy, nice and early for the Viktor player. So quite the healthy hand size so far going forward. Irelia doing what she's known to do, developing her board very slowly. Doesn't have any units, but the thing with Irelia, because of her legend ability, since you have those equipments already in base, once you play out a unit, which this turn you might very well play your champion unit from that zone, you can equip it, and that actually counts as a chosen trigger. So you can trigger your Irelia unit, pay 1 power, and ready that unit. So you're able to go on the offense as soon as that unit does get played out. So he's not feeling too far behind. He has to just worry about some kind of clapback. But thinking about Viktor's current board, there's only minions, there's only 2 recruit tokens, so she's not too scared of anything on that follow-up turn. So let's see what they decide to do here, because surprising enough, do you feel like this Viktor is one of those prison Viktors we've been hearing a lot about?
Yeah, and I'm guessing so. There can be a lot of similarities, and one that we've been seeing though is a no unit Viktor. Now, at that point, we haven't seen any units necessarily come out just yet. And so if we do, then yeah, this very well could be Prison Viktor, but there's also ones that even do have a few units. For example, using a Jace to go ahead and destroy a gold token to then get out something scary like Vanguard Armory, which can create 3 recruit tokens every turn. So it's up in the air, but man, with all those cards in hand, Viktor could start doing a lot, especially with 7 runes able to be accessed.
Yeah, so many cards, as you said. So I'm curious to see, because Irelia, one more time, no units currently active on the base, but the Siren is another fantastic gear. Not in equipment, but utilizes her ability to move things around the board very well. So you pay 1 energy and exhaust me, and you can move a unit to your base, and that actually triggers again the Irelia ability, because you're choosing the unit, or at the very minimum you get to move them back in the ready position. And okay, Blood Money coming down. I haven't seen too much of this card. Are you familiar with it, Silent?
Yeah, so what you're able to do is you're able to kill a unit at a battlefield that has 2 might or less, and then if you kill your own unit, you are able to create an additional gold. If you kill someone else's unit, then you are only able to create 1 gold gear, and so you're going to see 2 gold gear able to be created here. We have a chance that we might see maybe a Jace, and then potentially getting out the big armory, but time will tell. But still, 2 gold is going to be so valuable in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm loving that play because usually you sacrifice your recruit tokens with something simple like a hidden blade, but that blood money seems a little bit more advantageous, developing those power resources later on and just conquering with that recruit token, bringing his total up to 3 so far. And he pays 1 power or 1 energy, I should say, because of the treasure hold. And as you said, Silent, the Jace coming down, bringing out the 7 cost gear. Vanguard Armory tapping it, I believe, is 3 total recruit tokens. Viktor's kind of popping off right now.
Yeah, and this is going to be the difficult part because now you can create 3 tokens every single turn. And there's even some strategy that you can use with units to even have them come in ready. But of course, that's going to be a lot of work. But even still, if you're able to bombard the board with 3 additional units every single time, Irelia is going to need to work some magic here to start making some points happen because Viktor can just now keep on swinging time and time again.
Yeah, it's going to be incredibly hard to deal with this for the Irelia player because she's known to kind of kill units one by one once they're in the battlefield. But because these units are able to be hanging out in the back line, I don't think there's too much interaction that this Irelia player can do. They can keep on developing recruit after recruit, and when the time is right, they have things like Imperial Decree to take out your units. They have that Grand Stratagem to take out your units. So this is going to be an uphill climb for Irelia, but let's see, it's still nice and early. Viktor player still at 3 points. Gonkra still hasn't been fortunate enough to score a point of their own, but doesn't have that bad of a board. I mean, plenty of gear and equipment to work with. Ezreal hits the board now. Does he want to equip and maybe push forward to try to at least score 1? Do you feel that's worth it, or are you scared of those recruits in the back?
Yeah, there's still ways to be another Ezreal, but yeah, there are still ways that you are able to utilize the legend ability of Irelia, so you can still go ahead and quickly take 2 points and then move immediately back. There are no hidden cards on the side of Viktor. He is completely tapped out, so if there ever were a time to potentially get a couple of points and then back out, this might be that chance, but it looks like we're going to continue to build up the board state. Another gear coming out to get that mobility set up, but is this starting to become too little too late as we are soon going to be 5-0?
Yeah, I could only agree more. I mean, it's tough. It's such a tricky position because from this position for the Viktor player, he has the ability to play it a bit slower. You don't have to rush things. You're up by pretty much, I mean, a 4-point margin, nothing to scoff at all. So 4 points, little by little, Irelia has to get so much, has to do so much catch up. And you could just kind of pick away at these battlefields as we're seeing now. Scoring his 5th point doesn't really have to be pressure to kind of put out more units on these battlefields like I'm expecting. I think he's just going to hang out with some units in the back line and only push them forward when it's absolutely necessary, forcing Irelia to really try to make some moves here because so far Viktor is full in control of this match.
Yep, and every single turn now. And with a singularity coming out to deal 6 damage to 2 units, both Ezreals are going to find their way to the trash. That is going to severely slow down Irelia. And this is the thing. I can now sit back. I can create a token with Viktor every turn. I can access my gear to create 3. I am going to continue to develop my backline and sit pretty and see what Irelia can do. And right now, it looks like full momentum is in Viktor's way as a hidden card comes out as well. And I mean, gosh, what can Irelia do to even start to make an impact in this game?
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like that singularity might have just been that nail in the coffin because you needed some kind of units to put some kind of pressure onto these battlefields. But man, singularity in a Viktor deck, so much control, so much units. It's looking like Viktor is quite a powerful legend in set 2 with the Jace Armory combo. I believe as soon as turn 3 was it? It
Mhm.
almost seems like from that moment on, very similar how when Dazzling Auroras were developed on a turn 3 play, it's so hard for your opponent to catch up following those kind of plays. And we're seeing that here with Irelia still hanging out at 0 points. I mean, I think it's now or never. You got to put something on the board, but with that hidden card most likely being something like a Hidden Blade, you don't feel too safe. At the very least, you do have that Guardian Angel to protect it for that one turn, and then you can equip with the boots to ready it if you do choose to. So I can see it actually. No, you have to get the conquer first. So this is a tricky line. Let's see how he ends up sequencing, because there's a way you could possibly conquer both battlefields in this turn. So it's triggering the Irelia ability, readying her on the as soon as she comes out, trying to force out this hidden card. Let's see what's under the hood.
Well, and here's the thing, too. With that being Consult of the Past, at least you're getting 2 cards. You might be a little bit worried about Irelia having some Defies going. There's 3 runes up. But Irelia, even every time that she is ready or chosen, you can give me +1. So she can get really big. Now, of course, that's not going to be anything difficult to get over the might that Viktor's able to produce. But even still, I mean, if you're unable to defend these battlefields, PewQ could go up to 7 points at that. And so this is a big turn. And all those cards in hand for Viktor.
Yeah, I mean, so much abundance of hand size, so much abundance of units on the base. He is spoiled with riches right now. He's feeling comfortable. He's feeling in control. I mean, he might be able to just take out this Irelia just pushing units, but I know there is something like a grand stratagem in that hand. There's no way there's not with 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 cards in hand. One of those have to be one of those powerful spells to buff up those little recruit tokens to take on, I would assume, a grand stratagem, or I believe this Prison Viktor deck tends to run things like Imperial Decree, where you could just trade a single recruit for your opponent's units, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is something that's really surprising here too, because especially with set 1, we saw Viktor every now and again, and it had a good appearance in like Vegas or something where it got like 25th. But now we're seeing it actually win a lot of tournaments over in China, and we're seeing right now this could very well be why. Here goes Drag Under coming out to be able to just go ahead and kill a unit. And that is the power of yellow here, because it just is a kill spell. Doesn't deal damage. You can't buff up or anything like that, but we have a hard bargain that is going to be able to come in. 2 additional is going to need to be paid if Viktor so chooses, and looks like that is going to be paid. So Irelia could be going to the trash at this point and being saved by the Guardian.
That's right. So it does indeed push the Irelia back. And that is the one downside for hard bargain. It's best utilized when your opponent has no more runes to be paid, but able to pay 2 more additional runes for that hard bargain. Pretty much countering the counter, if you will, pushing forward, and the call of the week does come down, making things devastatingly bad for the Irelia player. Luckily, they do have a Defy saving grace, because if that was the call of the week actually got to resolve there, I think that was 100% GG for the Irelia, if it's not already.
Yeah, well, I mean, and again, we're going to see another 3 units get created that are going to be utilized this next turn. I mean, gosh, losing count. I think that's 7 now, or 8, that are going to be out in the base alone. And so even if Irelia is able to go ahead and score these 3 points, you still have 8 cards on the following turn for Viktor to try to utilize and play around. I don't know if Irelia is going to be able to do that, but man, this is scary. This is something that you got to watch out. And did Irelia just get maybe a little too slow of a start with maybe so few units in hand?
Yeah, so does end up going up to her second point. It looks like Irelia didn't count that one conquer they had from the Dreaming Tree the previous turn. So going up to 2 points, because I almost swear they had 0 before this, but it was 2 conquers, I'm remembering now. But as you said, a little too late, since Viktor's at 7 points. Hand size healthy, definitely does probably have either one of the 2 cards we keep mentioning over and over, that Imperial Decree or the Grand Stratagem, that should be able to close things out, unless Irelia has something like a wind wall, because right now in this position, not so fast wouldn't be able to counter it, right? Because it doesn't target one of your own units. It targets their friendly units, aka the recruits on the current board. So they would need something like a wind wall. And I'm not too sure Irelia players are electing to run a wind wall at this very moment. I mean, some probably, but this game is not looking so good for gonkra.
No, not at all. And here's the thing too, because even the signature spell of Defiant Dance won't necessarily do too much here. And so it's like, well, how do you go ahead and stop a double conquer with so many units out on the board? You're going to have what, maybe three that are going to be three runes potentially, yep, that are going to be able to be used against this army of units, but this is so tough. And here we go. Runes are going to get tapped, and we'll see what the reactions are going to be here.
And it was one of the cards we expected, the Imperial Decree. Every one of your units has what I would used to call a death touch. If it does damage to an opponent's unit, the unit just basically dies. So conquers for 1, conquers for 2, and that will be GG. PewQ taking game number 1 of this very first round in a very, very commanding fashion. Well played, and this Viktor deck is looking like he's not messing around. I was very impressed with what I saw so far.
Yeah, well, and one of the biggest things that gave such an advantage in the beginning was Stupefy being used on Dreaming Tree. You go ahead and you give -1 to one of your units. You don't care why, because you're going to be drawing 2 cards from that. And that was such a big advantage early on. And that was what was able to probably be able to find the Jace with the gear.
Because isn't it default you're the left battlefield?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, and every once in a while, people just keep their stack of cards on one side and move their battlefield of choice over to the other. But yeah, it depends on the player here. So it looks like in this case, we are going to do a little swip swap and see what's going on. But man, this is going to be a fun combo for game 2. A Reaver's Row, where you're able to always move back to base, and Vilema's Lair, where you are never able to move back to base. So we'll see what that happens here.
Yeah, kind of like a little polar opposites, and it does benefit Irelia quite a bit with those cards. We didn't get to see them in game number 1, but we mentioned them before. That Stella Corn gets so much value of every single movement, so if we're able to develop one of those onto the board, Irelia is going to be able to build probably even a bigger hand size than we saw Viktor in game 1. Let's see if they're fortunate enough to draw one, but just putting out 2 Guardian Angels and the Sirens, so just a whole lot of equipments and gears for the Irelia so far. So Viktor most likely going to be able to get a single point onto the board. And this Honest Broker, not too bad, because it does have the Death Knell. You get a gold once it dies, so you don't feel too bad putting it in Valmond's Lair, since you're probably expecting it to go down anyways.
Yeah, but here's the interesting part. Hard casting a Consult of the Past. So either he really does want to save the runes, or there isn't necessarily much else that he can play in his hand, at least yet. Could very well, again, have the Jace going on. But you need a gold, or you need a gear at least minimum to sacrifice to be able to get out your 7-cost gear. And so we're maybe trying to have that sacrificial lamb come out a little bit. And then once we are able to do so, we will start moving these combos here.
Yeah, and it was in this position where Irelia really kind of hit a wall where they weren't able to put out a unit. So I like this position for her a little bit better now, pushing out her champion unit a bit earlier. Viktor only has 2 points. This is a one benefit of being on the play. Do they want to equip one of these Guardian Angels? It looks like the answer is yes. I would most likely be looking at the Reaver's Row, because Irelia won't be able to move back with the Siren from Valmond's Lair. Of course, there could be a Swifties, the Boots of Swiftness, lurking in the hand that will allow them to gank over, because you could gank from Valmond's Lair, you just can't retreat to the base. So that's a big thing to keep an eye on. So this is gonna be an interesting decision. If you're Irelia Silent, are you pushing Reaver's Row, or do you feel like if you have the boots, maybe go to Valmond's?
Yeah, that's going to be the hard part, because even if you do have the boots, that is going to be a 3-cost and also a recycle that you would need to get that equipped. And so that's going to be, maybe I need to sacrifice and wait for next turn, or I'm really hoping that Guardian is going to be enough. But again, we can be watching out for maybe a Guardian, causing it to move back to base, and then even a Call of the Week. So there's a lot of interesting things that you got to watch out for, but looks like we pushed into Vile, and we'll see if that ends up paying out.
Yeah, that could be a little bit of a telegraph sign that he does indeed have the boots in hand, because you know you can't retreat with with the siren. Oh, and this is a big
Ooh.
sideboarded card. The salvage coming in, you may kill a gear, so it kind of gets around Guardian Angel. Instead of killing the unit, you go directly for the gear. The only thing it doesn't do is it keeps Irelia on the battlefield, but you do end up getting a draw. So just like we saw in game one, Viktor having a good hand size throughout this entire game so far. Let's see how he plans to use this, and it's going to be a hidden blade. So a 1-2 punch, quite the, oh man, turn of events for Aurelia. Not feeling so good.
Yeah, at least you do get the 2 cards off of that, but, the one that you're worried about with Irelia, it's like, well, was it a Defy or something that I need to try to play around? And having that Gear Destruction gave you the answer right away, gave you a card. I'm gonna be a little bit worried, though. I don't love giving Aurelia more cards in hand, and we just gave her 2.
That's very true. Aurelia is very comfortable with more cards in hand, because a lot of their cards are a bit lower to the ground. Things like Defy, things like On Guard, things like Discipline, or the signature spell Defiant Dance. But all those cards work best when you have a unit on the board. So far, no units because of that Hidden Blade coming down previous turn. So let's see, because right now, the only units we've seen from this whole match in round one is the champion, right? I don't think we've seen any other units from the Aurelia Legend.
No, not yet. And that this is the difficult part, and I think we still are trying to find this balance, because if you don't end up having units, you're just going to start falling behind, because I mean, how else are you able to score points? And when you're only running 8 units, you're gone through, at this point 10 cards of your deck so far. But still, if this is the tough part, and so I don't know, this is a big turn for Aurelia, but this is going to be a struggle.
Yeah, struggle indeed. Let's see how they kind of sequence things and play things going forward, because it does feel like an uphill climb as we saw in game number one. But if they have at least another unit to be played, a 4-cost Stellar Corn is the card we keep bringing up, because it's one of the best cards, especially considering the fact that Reaver's Row is online for this game too. You could drop the Stellar Corn, equip the Guardian's Angel, keep it nice and safe in case another combat spell comes out from the Viktor player, and then Reaver's Row, another bit of a safety net to push it back. So you're looking at 2 draws, but it looks like they're tapping 5. It's going to be the Aurelia Fairvent coming down one more time. Can she accomplish a little bit more than her sister did in the previous turn? So Guardian Angel does get equipped. Let's see if they decide to do the Aurelia Legend ability. I would assume so, but no, actually forgoes it and passes over to Viktor.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that is a smart play there, because every time that you do try to do this, you have to sacrifice a rune in this case and put it back in the bottom of your deck. Now, of course, that is a really good ability, because you can immediately utilize that, but even still, it's like, at what cost? And I mean, we're keeping 1 rune up. At least we're going to be able to go to 7 runes next turn for Aurelia, but an impact needs to be made, because Viktor is running circles around Aurelia, going now up 6-1.
Oh yeah, and it looks like it just might be a good matchup for this Viktor player. Similar to how Viktor tends to be a good matchup against dazzling decks, because they end up being a little bit too late game. I would imagine Aurelia has something like an Aspirant Climb as that 3rd battlefield. It looks like she might have been better off using it now, because she hasn't been able to get full use from this Reaver's Row anyways in this game too. And it looks like she just needs a bit more breathing room, a little bit more time to try to develop things. Or it could just be the case that Viktor has been relentless with those ability to take care of not only the units in the back line, but also on those battlefields with those kill spells, as we've been seeing this entire match.
hmm Well, and that's the thing, and we saw at the beginning of the round when they were removing the battlefields, that battlefield number 3 was Paper Tree.
Oh,
So
okay.
trying to get a little bit more ramp as your opponent or you are holding, you each get to go ahead and channel a rune Exhausted. So interesting choice here for Aurelia. But yeah, I think the Reaver's Row was the best choice for at least game 2. Ezreal is now coming out. You're getting 2 units, so potentially able to take both battlefields. But the biggest thing is, can we hold? And that's going to be the big question here, because there is a lot of ground needing to be made up for Irelia.
Yeah, and with that said, the card we saw in the previous turn was that Imperial Decree. If he indeed has another Imperial Decree, that could be a GG situation. But keeping in mind, there's only 3 units in the back line because they haven't been able to get that Vanguard Armory online just yet. So with the Imperial Decree, I don't think it'll be 100% over yet unless they're able to hold one of these battlefields. If they hold to 7, then with 3 units in the back line, that should be enough. But if they get both of their battlefields cleared, they're going to have to sacrifice 2 units. Those units wouldn't be able to conquer, and then you only be able to conquer with that final recruit token you have in the back line. So that would only be getting you to 7. But the big caveat, of course, being that Reaver's Row gets you that 4th unit in the back. So with that, if he does have the Imperial Decree, I guess it should be over, wouldn't it, Silent?
Yeah, pretty much at that point, there wouldn't be any other way. And it's very telling also to see that he decided to pull it back instead of having the gold token created. And so it's like, and still, even with 5 runes up, there's a chance that he very well could even, have a little surprise for us as this attack is coming in, if they choose to go a full send with Ezreal there. Now, this is the scary part, and something that Irelia might need to consider is, I have 8 cards in hand. Do I leave these 4 runes up and try to defend my Irelia, keep her in base, so my opponent cannot win this game?
Yeah, that's going to be so tricky because usually you push into Reaver's Row with the idea in mind of saving your unit and getting it retreated back with that Reaver's Row ability. But in this situation, as you said, you're in full defense mode. If you do not defend this Reaver's Row, that is it. You're going to be heading down to the lower bracket and you just have a final lifeline. If you guys didn't catch it, this is a bit different tournament style than we've done in the past. Is double elimination, essentially 2 lives and your tournament run ends. So gonkra trying to hold on to this dream, trying to work his way through the winners bracket. Okay, I think they're playing, as you said, Silence, they're going to try their best to hold on this Reaver's Row. Let's see if that plan works out for them if they pass it on to Viktor, as we see now.
And that's going to be the scary part. PewQ going up to 7 just needs to conquer the Reavers. 4 runes up, 1 card hidden. I mean, and that's the scary part because it can be a fight or flight, and that's only going to push back 1 unit. Viktor has 4. So do you have enough runes? Do you have the answers in hand to really be able to push back those and still... Because, I mean, like what we said, if there's an Imperial Decree... You can just send 1 unit at the time and say, do you have the answer? Yes. Okay, here's the next one. Do you have the answer? Cool, next one. Until the Irelia falls.
Oh yeah, and that's probably the best card they could have. Even better so than a Grand Stratagem. But either or of those cards, those final closeout cards for Viktor will be ending things here. You still have the 1 unit at Valmont. It's not going to be doing very much. It all comes down to those final 4 units in the back, those honest brokers, the 2 recruit tokens, and then what card is lurking in the hand for the Viktor. There's a 7 total card size, 8 total runes, plenty to work with. I think he's just thinking about, am I miscalculating anything? What can those final 4 runes be? I'm going to try to do the math here. If it's an On Guard, a Discipline, or a Double Defiant Dance, can I still get over it? And maybe this isn't the final push, Silent, because they ended up going with the Armory. Yeah, okay, this hold. So far, so good. Is this the start of a bit of a comeback for Irelia?
Well, we'll see. I mean, at least it's a tapped out Viktor, so a little breath of fresh air going in for Irelia, but even still, that is going to be 9 runes coming up for Viktor at 7 cards in hand with an army that is ready to move in, but you are still giving that Irelia 1 final turn. And so made me think maybe he doesn't have necessarily the Imperial Decree in hand and is hoping to, give me another turn to try to draw something out. And so even at that point, could even still go ahead and send everything into 1 battlefield and try to defend that way. But again, that's maybe not the Viktor way, but still, you gotta try to figure out maybe these lines and try to play around. But 6 runes up for Irelia, that's scary.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. If he had the Imperial Decree, it would have been deployed the previous turn, but tap in. Oh, and speak of the devil, Imperial Decree, keeping it super safe. There's so many units on the board. You just send in one by one by one, and that should lead you to victory as the Victor player. Man, incredible match, but Victor just unrelenting with the amount of pressure he put onto Irelia this entire series. That should be that should be a 2-0 going in the way of Victor, unless there's a win wall here. I guess they're discussing about it.
Yeah, and that's the scary part. You can only imagine the Victor probably holding his breath at that point, being like, let's hope. But there's 3 that's going to be coming out. That is going to be a hard bargain. Has not been repeated though, and so would need to tap an additional 2 to stop that, but could also even stack another hard bargain on top. And let me just see on the rules too. Do you have to pay the repeat cost up front, or can you attach that after they pay the cost?
No, you have to declare that you're repeating it as you play it. So basically, if you wanted to pay the repeat cost, making the Victor player tap 4. I think. Wait, did they do that now? Why is Victor tapping 4? They played 2. Because repeat, oh, Ezreal, of course. So the repeat costs 1 less. So they tapped a total of 3 energy, paying for the repeat cost, forcing Victor to tap all 4 runes. And luckily, Victor had exactly just enough. And I think with that tapping of the 4 runes, that should be all set in stone. Victor gonna be bringing it home because you're not able to counter the Imperial Decree. Just 1 more rune short. And Irelia could have staged her comeback. It was actually a little bit closer than it seems. This was the one final point that needed the final thing that needed to go right for Irelia, but unfortunately did not play the way she intended to.
Yeah, and so I mean the cost was then paid, and that's the hard part. It's just like wasn't quite able to get there, but still looks like the Imperial Decree is going off. No additional reactions being added to that, and so immediately just gonna move one in. 3 runes at the ready, and yep, just like what you said, this is looking as good as done. Even if there was a way to get around this, I mean, there's still a lot of ways to go next turn, especially with PewQ. The army that he is able to be made, and I am so impressed by seeing what Victor is able to do here. And are we maybe going to see Victor make it into the top 4 potentially with the power that we're seeing here in this initial game?
I mean, I wouldn't put it past the Victor player to do so, because we're seeing it piloted from a very experienced and a very well-played player, a very good high-level player like PewQ. As we said before, he was the first ever weekly champion in our events, so he's been in the game quite some time, has so much experience, and is trying to show that to everybody here today in our invitational. So gets the 1 conquer or pseudo conquer, which means the draw, and now just has to worry about the final Row battlefield. Let's see what the hidden card is. Most likely in green purple decks, it tends to be the fight or flight. Is going to be basically doing nothing. If you want to retreat your Irelia, you could have done it with Reavers. If you even retreat your Irelia, that is a conquer going up to the 8th point for the Victor. So damn if you do, damn if you don't. I think this is just super grim for Irelia. I don't see any line like a ride the wind, the fight. No, I just don't see the cards right now for Irelia.
That's the hardest part. Hard Bargain is such a powerful card, but both games for Irelia that has not been able to be accurately utilized here because the opponent has had enough runes up to be able to go ahead and stop the Hard Bargain every time with ease and still be able to play out the rest of their turn. And just like that, we are seeing that 8th point being scored as PewQ has taken down Irelia with Victor.